So we are here on episode 3 with Fiona, right now based in Bali. Everyone knows that's the place to be, so that's really amazing to hear that it's still happening over there. So Fiona is a
Mhm.
senior mergers and acquisition advisor. She's currently with Flippa and would like to help all of our listeners to find an alternate way to escape your 9 to 5. So we're all used to hearing oh, become a freelancer or maybe go volunteer, sell all your things and figure it out later. Well, that doesn't fly with everyone. Some people are more
Yeah.
preppers. And so Fiona has one interesting method that, I wasn't aware of that could potentially help others start their digital nomad journey and at the least empower them to make those steps towards working towards having more financial freedom and more power over what they're doing. So first, I'll start with um, how did you personally begin your journey as a digital nomad?
Yeah, great to be here, Justin. I'm really excited to speak with your community. It isn't an avenue that most people know of, so I'm super excited to share my journey. But I was actually a business owner a long time ago now, and it was in-person business, and I exited that and moved over to the United States and kind of started my travel journey. And I was fortunate enough to work with Flipper. Um, so we are a global company, so we have people dotted all around the world. And I've been fortunate enough to move quite a few times with Flipper, and yeah, recently I moved to Bali, where, like you said, it's happening. It's in a co-working space, and there's people speaking French and German and English. It's pretty amazing, um, and yeah, so just dotted around and fortunate enough to have the opportunity to travel and connect with people who are also digital nomads, business owners in these regions.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what has been like the most interesting business that you've heard about someone doing successfully out there?
I think it's really cool when someone builds something that you don't even realize you need. So, it might be an app that you use every day or a software that is an extension of something that you use every day. And your mind doesn't even realize that you're using their software. So, even it sounds very nerdy, but even like identity softwares that you go to a hotel and they scan your passport or something, and that's actually a business that I represented. It does that. They host that. So it's um, it's probably less glamorous than answer than you're expecting, but it's kind of like, oh wow, there's a market for that, and a really big market, or yeah, very very nerdy kind of answer for you there.
Yeah, I've been told it's sometimes the boring businesses that actually make the most money behind the
Mhm.
scenes. It might be a 2 cent
Definitely.
charge, 5 cents charge here or there, but now multiply that by millions of users who go use it every
Hmm.
day. Like then that's
Hmm.
easy millions of dollars in your pocket. So
100%. And it's often like those businesses that when, the market doesn't look so great, or the high cost of living that we're going through at the minute, those businesses stay steady because every hotel still needs to verify the passport, or they still need that identity software. It's those businesses that tend to stay quite stable throughout the ups and downs of the market.
yeah. So I would like to know more about Flippa as a whole. We talked about it briefly before. I've known it as a platform where you can buy and sell websites, but you informed me that there's just so much more to it.
Hmm.
And I was very interested by what you shared with me, so I'd like to go ahead and give you the opportunity to share that with the listeners.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, Flipper is 14, almost 15 years old. So we've been around for a long time, and traditionally it was, yes, you just jump on and buy and sell your business. But we have really grown from that into a platform full of services to do mergers and acquisitions of online businesses. So, what that actually means is anything from apps, software, e-commerce, podcasts, like anything that's online is bought and sold on our platform. And we have services that extend beyond just someone jumping on and selling their business. It's the broker services, which is what I'm a part of, where we actually do that process for you, advise you through it, um, together with our tech. So we have AI buyer matching tools. We have a directory of all our buyers. We have, a payment processor that acts as an escrow. Like we're a full suite of. If you came to us and said, "I want to exit my 9 to 5. How do I do it? And can you teach me the process? And can you help me acquire a business to be able to exit?" Then we can do that for you.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I did recently work with a client who had actually bought their site from a broker because that website was
Mm-hmm.
generating revenue through ads. And they wanted to capture that. I think that business had recently been hit with the Google,
Mm-hmm.
what's it called?
Updates,
The Google
yeah, Google
updates,
updates.
and so it wasn't as profitable as it was in the past, and they didn't have the time to invest into it because in the past, for that particular business, it was just working, but they didn't have
Yeah,
SEO know-how. They just got lucky in their niche, and so they ended up selling it. And then that new owner was trying to rebrand, and and that wasn't a thought that occurred to me. You know, I'm sure I'm at Google. I'm on Google every day for my job, honestly. Googling how to do
mm-hmm.
something, ChatGPT, and some of the most like unthought of things. It could be, I don't know, something like cooking or gardening or, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, sandcastles. You just don't know like just what the topic. So if someone's searching for it, you can monetize it, and that's something that I saw, and so
Yeah.
which leads me into the question then, like, as an entrepreneur, as a digital nomad, I'm always looking at ways to improve my own businesses or look at other business ideas that might generate some revenue. So, if as an individual, how can I use Flippa to find something that may fit maybe what I know, or even encourage me to try something new? How does Flippa allow the user to get
Mm-hmm.
to that point?
Yeah, really great question. And it's fascinating because you don't actually know what can generate, and this kind of goes back to what we were saying before about the boring businesses. You don't know what generates money until you see it. So, for example, the cookies that you have on your computer, we sold a business based out of the US. It was a sorry, based out of New Zealand. It was a blog. He had started it, I think it was 12, 15 years ago, just blogging about the cookies on your computer and what they are. And he sold it for I think it was 5 million
Wow.
US. Like, whoever would have thought to write a blog about the cookies on your computer? It's just
Insane.
fascinating. But yeah, to answer your question, so to get started, to figure out what is the best for you, the best thing to do is to jump on Flipper and have a look. It's like, have you ever browsed realestate.com or Zillow or any of those? It's very similar. So you jump on, you'll have a look, you'll kind of see, oh, that makes sense. I'm passionate about that topic, or oh, like, why would anyone need that? You kind of start to hone in on what aligns with you. And then together with that, you really want to understand where your skill set is going to fit in. So, for example, are you someone that is um, quite experienced in marketing? A lot of the businesses we see they're created by developers or creatives and then don't necessarily have the skill set in marketing. So they've grown the business to a certain point and can't scale it further. That's where the opportunity for someone who has a certain skill set, whether it's operations or it's marketing or it's tech, can come in and fill that gap, and it will essentially take the business further. So if you're coming in to acquire something, you are taking a business from 1 to 10. If you're starting something from scratch, you're taking it from 0 to 1.
Mhm.
So you've got a little bit of leverage to know that there's a market there, to identify the gaps, and then you fill the gaps with your skill set.
Okay. So it's not only a place to start, but a good place to exit for those business owners on the podcast as well. I know some people are always looking for the next thing, or they're serial entrepreneurs. They have this baby, but they don't know who wants to take care of it. So Flippa is another place to, put some feelers out there and see if there's some interest. You never know who you can connect with, and potentially even partner up. You just don't know how these things work sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, it's definitely a place to exit. Like the amount of times I have spoken to people and they don't even know that exiting's an option. So, like for example, a business I sold, it was purely a passion project for an elderly gentleman out of Canada, and he was teaching people how to trade spy, like day trades, and he was working every day. At 9 o'clock, he was hosting seminars and things like that. So it's hard work, but he was very passionate about it. He did this for 12 years and then was just going to let the business go. But someone told him to get in touch with us, and I was able to help him exit for 1.6 million.
That is
So
amazing.
pretty happy to retire with.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's one, of the major cases. What are some more, average cases of like, okay, I've had this business for a year, 2 years, or more actually, let's back up to finding a smaller business that wouldn't be too difficult to
Mhm.
handle. What's your recommendation, for looking into that? You already mentioned looking at something that you're interested in or something that you're knowledgeable. Are there filters, or, what sort of analytics does Flippa have that might help guide you?
Yeah, so we have a ton of analytics. Like I said, we've been in the business for up to 15 years. So we've gathered data for that whole time, and selling thousands and thousands of businesses, per month. We do get that intel. And we sell businesses from very small to very large. So if you are newer, then it is a lower risk to try something at that smaller end. And when I say smaller end, like $10,000 is still a lot of money. So you still want to do your due diligence. And we do that through integrating. So if we're talking about like an e-commerce store, we integrate Amazon or we integrate Shopify so that you can see the real raw data and
Mhm.
know that it's verified. We also have due diligence services in-house where people can essentially say, I need you to do due diligence because I'm about to buy this business, and we'll give you all the report on, the background, the traffic, everything like that. So you can kind of see, did the Google update hit the business, or where is the traffic actually coming from? Is it real traffic? And we help identify that. And then, of course, we've got brokers that assist along the way as well. So essentially you'll be talking to real humans,
Mhm.
yeah, which is always nice. But you can start small and grow very large. So essentially, John was a he's a flipper, very well known buyer in flipper. So he was involved in corporate life, and he decided, hey, I just going to try something on the side. So he bought a $7,000 e-commerce brand jewelry store, and over 2 years, he actually grew the business to essentially over $1 million in revenue per year, and he sold that business for $500,000 to then go and start again and buy something smaller and scale it. So I'm not saying everyone can do that, but it's definitely done.
Yeah, I know. I know. There's definitely businesses where you're more, deep into the woods. You're hands
Mhm.
on. But are there other businesses that are a little more hands off in on Flippa? Could you talk about a little bit like that about that?
Yeah, for sure. So, when you're looking for businesses, or even when you're starting, right, you've got to identify where your strengths are and time-wise what you have available. So, there's two kind of owners I like to think of. So you've got, leaders and you've got operators. So if you're a, a lot of um, tech people, so a lot of developers, creatives, I do see they operate the business themselves, and you can buy a business where you can jump in as a technical person and operate it. I had a pet SaaS business where it went from a guy in New Zealand who was owner operator, and then it sold to a guy in the US who is also going to be that owner operator because they were both developers. They had the same skill set. I've had instances where um, the business is owner operated, such as that one where the developer actually built the app, and then it gets sold a um, to a buyer who essentially just oversees and leads a team that they put into place
Mm,
because their skill sets are different.
yeah.
So that's where you've got to identify, like myself, I'm not a developer. I'm more operational, more strategic. So I would be like a leader and then put the technical people into place.
Mhm.
So you've just got to identify where your strengths are, and you can do that by just looking on Flipper, talking to people like myself or business owners.
And on Flippa, are we able to communicate with some resource before we buy to ask those questions? Are we able to directly communicate with the owner, or is there like what kind of how does that process look like? Make an account and then.
Hmm. Yeah, so purely just make an account, and then you'll have to verify some stuff because we do want to keep it safe for our community. So
Mhm.
we have people verify, email, identity, things like that. And then once you've done that, essentially, depending on the size of the listing, you'll either be talking to the seller themselves or you'll be talking to a broker. But if for example, if we're talking to something of $50,000, then we're going to be talking to the seller most likely, and the businesses will range, like I mentioned before, anything online. So we're talking about apps, we're talking about software, e-commerce, content, anything like that. So you'll essentially jump on, find what suits you. So maybe a blog is something that you're interested in, and then you'll start talking to the business owner to identify, how much time do they put into this blog?
Right.
Is that going to align with your lifestyle? Um, who writes the blog? Is it outsourced to ghostwriters, or is it the owner operator model, right? Um, and different deal structures, that's a whole nother ball game that I can get into. But are these people looking for 100% a cash up front, or are they open to pacing it out over a certain amount of time? Because that's all going to factor into, can I make this work
Right.
with this business?
And what
Yeah.
and let's say I'm a average middle class, whatever, American, European, a citizen of the world,
Mhm.
and I'm willing to put down 10, 15, $20,000 for a business, but I want the ability
Mhm.
to grow this business remotely, kind of how you are. Like, what type of business would you recommend? A blog, e-commerce store, what other opportunities are out
Mhm.
there?
Yeah, I think it depends on how nomadic you want to be. If you are our businesses can be operated from anywhere in the world. That's kind of one of the things that, online, the world of online is, right?
Yeah.
I think at that size, it depends. A blog or a SaaS or an app, they are all digital. So
Mhm.
you can be, you and I are on other sides of the world right now. But if the business was based in the US, I would be able to operate it. Um, it does get a little bit more complex when you have products such as e-commerce, because maybe you are doing inventory yourself, or you've got a warehouse and employees. However, it can be done, but it does make it a little bit more difficult. You can outsource things like that to help you, but essentially, the more digital, the easier it is going to be a nomad.
Mhm.
Um, and essentially, depending on time zones and customer time zones and stuff like that, you've got to think about, are you going to be servicing the client and the customer, and how's that going to fit into your lifestyle? We have people here in Bali that work from, I think it's like a 3 p.m. to a 11 p.m. at night, because they're on the European time zone and they have the rest of the day to do what they want. So maybe, like, if you're still doing it as a side hustle, maybe you can do that type of, a few hours at night, and it'll work because you'll be on the European daytime.
Yeah.
So things like that. So you really just got to understand what aligns with your customers, um, the logistics of it, and your lifestyle.
Right, right. That makes sense. Let's say I found a business, or I started a business, what would you recommend as a good timeline for, okay, this is a side hustle. I still have my job.
Mhm.
What is a good middle number of, okay, I need to have this small nest eggs for X amount of months, or I'm now earning 50% of my salary, 100% of my salary. In your opinion, being nomadic and have been working remote for a while, what is that recommendation? Is there an exact number or?
Yeah, absolutely not. It's definitely individual, because for someone like myself, I don't, my responsibilities are me. I don't have children, partner, or anything like that. So if I decide to jump in and say I'm all in this one business that's making 50% of my income, that's really only affecting me.
Mhm.
If you're got a family to look after, things like that, then it changes, I guess, a little bit on what to consider. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely just dependent on your comfortability. But I've seen it work, and I've seen it not. So yeah, it's really dependent on the person.
Yeah. What are some of those examples of when you've seen it not work? What are those mistakes that people make early on that could have been avoided?
Yeah, I think not doing enough research, not I hate to use the word hasty, but I can't think of anything right now. I think, I think you want to talk to people who have done it before. I think you want to, there's so many resources out there. Like, even on Flipper, we've got blog posts of success stories. That I read one yesterday where he wasn't successful, but then eventually he was, and he sold. But just understanding, it's not always going to happen the first time, and what's the plan and the backup plan and things like that. I think I've seen people do a business purely for the money, purely to without that passion piece as well.
Yeah.
And it's a hustle. Like I said before, the gentleman who does the spy trading course, he was up at every 9 o'clock every morning conducting um, courses.
Yeah.
He didn't take a day off. So I think people not doing the research, not and just underestimating what goes into building a business.
Mhm.
If you're acquiring a business, you at least have a little bit of an understanding, because you've seen what that person's doing. Um, again, you may have a little bit of profit to work off as well as that. So I think building a business, you're investing a lot of money of your own into it. If you buy a business, you've at least got a little bit of a buffer that it's profitable. It can, it's generating $500 a month. You've still got that to give you a little bit of a leg up.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, I think just staying disciplined. I had a guy who built apps, and he had built three apps that failed and then built the fourth one, and he exited for $4.2 million. So
Wow.
I bet so many years he had failed,
Right.
lack of a better term. So just really talking to people who are in the business, whether that's someone like myself or whether that's other founders who have done it before, doing your research and then staying super disciplined, I think is important.
Outside of that, what's another way for a business to be successful? I believe we talked about maybe finding some communities. Where is a
Mm.
good resource for finding communities? I think the usual person will try to go on Facebook. I personally will go on meetup.com or something like that, couch surfing. What other avenues have you seen yourself?
Yeah, so I find like I'm in a co-working space, and just meeting people there and having a regular routine, and
Mhm.
seeing the same people every day. So I'm in Bali for a couple of months, and each day I'll go to the gym and I'll go to the same co-working place or a similar coffee shop, and you start to build a community. There's founders run clubs.
Yeah.
There's like yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like definitely Meetup and Facebook are really great. And then look out for places or events that people like myself put on. I'm doing a webinar tomorrow, and we've got um, in-person meetups we put up globally around the world, and just seeking out to speak to people in the industry is how you're going to learn.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's funny how even though we work remote, we still go to that same structure. It's like we're in an office, we're still going to the gym, following this routine, you know.
It's productivity, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Even I just signed up for a co-working space locally, even though I can work from
yeah.
home here. I don't know what it is. I guess I just don't want to be home all day. I like
Yeah,
the option, right? I like the option. Yeah.
it's you're able to break it up a little bit, to
Mhm.
break up your day.
Yeah. So what are some other resources? You mentioned Flippa's blog. You can search it as a marketplace. You mentioned that there's
Mm.
some data that's available. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we have some really, really great live data insights. So that means you can literally pull them up and look at how much does our network of buyers have at the minute. And I think yesterday it was like $64.5 billion.
Well,
Where are they located? And you can click on the map and see, how many, what's the liquidity of buyers in your area. And not that that even matters because
mhm.
of the ability to sell. I think 69%, I think, of what we do is cross border. Um, and then the data insights give you ideas on multiples. So what you can sell for, or what's in the market range, or what you should buy for, right? Because you don't want to be um, pricing too high or too low. And then, yeah, I mentioned our blog. So that's got a huge amount of resources for first time sellers or first time buyers on what to look out for. When you're talking to business owners, or sellers, what do you even ask them?
Yeah.
Or what's a red flag, and things like that.
Right. So obviously I'm sure there's businesses there that are earning revenue. That's why they're trying to sell, and they just found a point where they're happy with where they reached. Are there any businesses that aren't quite generating revenue that are still being sold on there? And you say, okay, that's a yes. I see you nodding your head.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that? Is that riskier? Why would someone try and sell a business that's not quite generating revenue? And why would that be valuable to someone still?
Yeah, really great question. So yes, there are businesses that are not profitable. Um, Typically, they've built the tech, so they've built an app or a SaaS, and that's the value. So the IP is the value. Um, it is a riskier business to take on because you don't have the customers, or maybe you don't have as many customers. So you're essentially buying something that's losing money.
Mm.
However, if you have the skill set to turn that around quite quickly, so for example, when I talk about before looking at the gap, maybe there's an amazing SaaS business software that it just needs a sales team. So maybe you are an excellent salesperson, very confident that you can get the business that's got some really great tech and you can sell it, then that essentially could actually be a very, very good buy for you because they tend to be valued significantly less because they don't come with the profitability. So if you're maybe a little bit more
Risk averse
flexible
or
with how
flexible.
risky,
Yeah.
yeah, with and you want to jump in a little bit, have a bit of a play around. That definitely can be a really fun way to do it.
Yeah. And has there been any businesses that you saw yourself that you thought like, wow, this is super cool. Maybe I'll, give it a try. I'm just curious.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely see businesses, and I'm like, I get very excited. In fact, yesterday I was speaking to a guy who he does it in essentially helps content creators and people like yourself who
Hmm.
could potentially be a customer, and that got me really excited. I am actually in the process of very, very early stages of building my own business. And so I've done the in-person business before, so I want to do the digital business myself and kind of be on that journey of getting it from 0 to 1 and then exit it and maybe buy something and do the whole process. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's another thing that some people might not consider. You are mergers and acquisition. So you may already have an existing business that maybe just needs a little more oomph. And so Flippa could be another resource to find that. Maybe you acquire, like you said, some of that intellectual property, or maybe a team, maybe you have the marketing and you have the cash and it's burning a hole in your wallet, right? Like you said, right? So there
Mm,
actually could be other needs that are being met there that wouldn't have originally, been thought of, right? 'Cause I'm a business owner. Why would I go buy another business if I'm doing fine? Well, maybe you can do even better if you have the support behind it, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, I've seen like marriages between businesses like that where they get rolled up. So you might have an e-commerce store that targets women in their 20s to 50s, and then you buy a blog that targets that same network of or same audience and cross market them,
Mhm.
and they end up complementing each other, and essentially you're kind of saving on marketing
Yeah.
because you're cross marketing organically, and yeah, they roll up into some kind of a portfolio of this amazing big business, or when I say big, bigger business
Yeah.
that cross markets the same audience.
It's interesting you bring that up because I did learn about, I don't know if it's black hat SEO or considered white hat SEO, where some business owners will actually buy domains that have already existed with relevant
Mm-hmm.
content. Let's say I'm a blog, then a common thing that bloggers hear of is you got to get the backlinks, you got to get the backlinks. So you're talking
Mm-hmm.
to other business owners, other bloggers, maybe paying some companies to help you with getting those backlinks. But one thing that people don't consider is, because I've seen services charging as little as $10 for a backlink to hundreds of dollars for a single
Yeah.
link. So, let's say you can find a site that has a good history already for, let's say, $1,000, $5,000. You can more than likely generate more than 5 to 10 links on there. Let's say even 20, right? So it's very easy to get your money's worth by buying such a website, because instead of
Yeah.
paying $300 a pop, which is some of the higher end ones. Now you can do whatever you want and continue to organically grow both, like you said. And I know it's frowned upon in the business, but you can also sell links. I know that's a thing. Um, Google has shaken
Yeah.
up a lot of things, so I don't know what works and
Mm.
what doesn't work quite as much anymore. Because even my blog, I was doing really well. I was so proud. I 10x my traffic, and now I'm back to like 30% of that 10x traffic. All that hard work.
I Yeah, I don't know that anyone knows what Google is doing, to be honest.
Yeah.
It yeah, it hits quite a lot of blogs.
Yeah.
And so they have to be very diverse now of what how they're generating their traffic.
Yeah, yeah. And at first they were like AI content's not okay, then said AI content is okay, and lots of back
Mm.
and forth. I think there's been two, three major updates, and one actually helped me. It almost doubled my traffic.
Oh, good.
And then the other two just reversed that and then some. Yeah, and that's so hopefully we see the end of that. We recently had a huge leak about what Google's looking for, but we never truly know.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. But so yeah, I mean, Flippa, a great marketplace to find businesses, acquire businesses, sell your business. And is there anything else that you'd like to share about the platform or your personal digital nomad journey? I'm actually kind of interested, if you don't mind. What is the business you're trying to do?
Yeah, so I'm a big foodie, love food, but I have quite a few allergies. So when I'm traveling, I find it sometimes hard to find restaurants, cafes that cater to that. So I'm basically building a blog. So we'll see how my traffic goes. Um, to share my experiences with did I go to this restaurant, were there options, how did I feel afterwards, and then a bit of a fitness side as well, so just where to go running, or where's a good gym and stuff like that,
Mhm.
so just to come along the journey with me, sort of thing. It's not it's more of a personal fulfillment, for me, than it is, again, I'm doing it for the passion,
Yeah.
not for the profit. um but yeah, I kind of, every time I travel, I like look for, hey, what's dairy free or gluten free, and it's a little bit difficult to find, so trying to make that accessible to people where I go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, I started adding some pieces to my blog about food because I've traveled with some vegans and I've seen them struggle. And like,
Mm-hmm.
there's some apps that you can maybe find locations, but not in most countries. And I was like, huh, that's something I should be mindful of as I'm traveling to take note because that's an easy SEO drive towards my blog. I thought.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's fun, right? Culture, you learn about a country and their culture through food. You share with friends over food.
Mhm.
I go and sit at a. This is the way I meet people, which is a bit of a tip, but a lot of cafes, particularly in Bali, have the long communal table. So you just sit on that one if you're alone and you feel like you want to talk to someone. Sit there, and I guarantee you'll have lunch with someone random.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
my
end up having lunch with someone.
That's my usual strategy as well. If I get to a hostel or somewhere, I'll just kind of
Yeah.
twiddle my thumbs and do some work, and then eventually someone will say hi, they'll
Yes,
smile, they'll ask you a question. The next thing you know, you're on an adventure.
exactly. It's so much fun. So, um, yeah, I think just being open and open to talking to anyone, and yeah, I just love the nomad lifestyle. Kind of gone a little bit off topic there, but it's such a awesome opportunity to have, to be able to travel. And I think being a digital business owner does give you that. There's obviously challenges that come with it, but um, the freedom I get from working online is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of the listeners, that is the end goal, right? To have that freedom, and having your own business is one way. Freelancing is another way.
Mhm.
Blogging your passion could be another way. And that's the beauty of this time right now, is to have that opportunity. And so don't be afraid to start. You don't have to dive deep and quit your job and sell everything like some people do.
No.
You can start a small business on the side, acquire a small business on the side, and build it up until you're finally comfortable. It might take you 1 or 2 years. There's no rush.
Yep.
There's no rush
Yep.
to live. You still have the time. I've met so many remote workers of various ages. Like teachers also. They're lucky they get summers off. I've met some teachers in the
Mhm.
most interesting places, Iceland, and in the middle of a forest somewhere. Um, but
Absolutely. And just yeah, like you said, you don't have to have millions of dollars. You can be like John, who started with $7,000, which at the time he says that was a lot of money for him. And he bought the jewelry business and just gradually built it up. And um, now he's doing it full time, but and is able to travel and do what he needs to do. But it doesn't have to be a huge thing, and it's fun if you go on Flipper and just have a scroll around. It's fun to have a look at what's there too.
yeah, I might just do that later this evening. I'm always on Facebook Marketplace looking at things I'm not going to
Yeah,
buy, looking at land, looking at houses. Now I have another
yeah,
market to go look at. But who knows? Maybe I'll
yeah,
actually buy something. So,
yeah.
but so yeah, thank you again for talking about Flippa. I'm actually glad we connected because I didn't know that that was a resource. And one of the crazy things about being a nomad and having a diverse set of a network and friends is you might meet someone who needed this exact thing, and they just did not
Mm.
know that it was available. And so hopefully now there's an additional resource for the community, and and we can help each other grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm always happy to connect with people globally. So if anyone has any questions, they can reach me on LinkedIn and I will set up a time and have a chat.
Yep. And I'll have all those links on the podcast summary and on my travel blog. Fiona will have a dedicated little area so that you can connect. It'll have
Oh,
her
thank you.
LinkedIn and her email. And so, of course, now you have another friend and one in Bali.
Yes, come visit.
People always say, "Come, come, come," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ah, baby, baby." I'm usually not very easy to. It doesn't take much to convince me. So I have already like four
Yes.
four plans. I'm going to Guatemala at the end of the month.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'm excited to
gosh,
get out of the house.
very much. Well, thank you so much, Justin. This has been such a good conversation, and I hope your community gets something from it.
Thank you so